the waitress was crying in the kitchen. Then the billionaire CEO whispered, "Who hurt her?" Jessica pressed both trembling hands against the cold steel sink, desperately trying to silence the sobs that shook her entire body. Fresh bruises darkened her face, tears mixed with the soap water running over her fingers, and every painful breath reminded her that some wounds couldn't be hidden behind a waitress's smile. Outside the kitchen, customers laughed over breakfast, unaware that only a few feet away, a young woman was silently breaking apart. Then the back door opened, and an unfamiliar man in a tailored navy suit stopped in his tracks. His sharp eyes landed on Jessica's bruised face, and his voice dropped into a quiet whisper that froze everyone nearby. He didn't ask about the menu. He didn't ask who owned the diner. He simply asked one question that changed everything forever. Who hurt her? Before we continue, if you believe kindness still exists, that second chances can save lives, and that one act of courage can change someone's destiny, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Bright Heart for more emotional stories that remind us humanity still matters. The diner had stood beside Highway 47 for nearly 40 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was filled with hardworking people trying to survive another day. Jessica had worked there for almost 3 years. Every customer remembered her gentle smile, her polite manners, and the way she treated strangers like family. What no one knew was that every evening after leaving work, she returned to a tiny apartment where fear waited behind the front door. She had once dreamed of becoming a nurse, but life had buried those dreams beneath unpaid bills, endless responsibilities, and someone who constantly convinced her she deserved nothing better. Every morning she carefully covered bruises with makeup before tying her red waitress uniform. Some days the marks disappeared beneath foundation. Other days nothing could hide the swelling around her eyes. Her co-workers noticed, but Jessica always blamed clumsiness, saying she had slipped on wet floors or bumped into kitchen shelves. Deep inside, everyone suspected the truth, but nobody knew how to help someone who insisted she was fine. That Tuesday morning the diner manager warned everyone that an anonymous investor would be visiting. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed the restaurant might be sold. Others feared layoffs. Everyone rushed to make the place spotless. Jessica continued serving coffee despite barely sleeping the night before. Every smile she offered customers hurt because her cracked lips stung whenever she spoke. Around 10 o'clock, a black luxury sedan quietly pulled into the parking lot. Nobody recognized the man who stepped out. He wore no expensive watch on display, no bodyguards surrounded him, and he introduced himself simply as Daniel. The staff assumed he was another businessman looking for breakfast. Jessica approached with a coffee pot and welcomed him warmly despite the pain she tried so hard to hide. Daniel noticed immediately that her smile never reached her eyes. He also noticed the makeup hiding fresh bruises around her cheekbone. She served his breakfast perfectly, apologized twice for things that weren't her fault, and disappeared into the kitchen moments later. Inside the kitchen, everything finally became too much. While washing dishes, Jessica remembered the cruel words she had heard before leaving home that morning. She remembered being told she was worthless, that nobody would ever believe her, and that she should be grateful anyone tolerated her existence. Those words echoed louder than the clatter of dishes until tears escaped faster than she could wipe them away. That was the moment Daniel quietly entered through the kitchen door after asking permission to thank the staff personally. Instead of finding busy cooks preparing meals, he found Jessica crying silently over the sink while desperately trying not to let anyone notice. His expression changed instantly. The room became unusually quiet. The cooks lowered their heads. The other waitresses looked away. Daniel slowly looked around the kitchen before asking the question that seemed almost too gentle for such a painful moment. Who hurt her? Nobody answered. Not because they didn't care. Because they were afraid. Fear had lived inside the kitchen for months. Everyone suspected Jessica was suffering abuse, but nobody wanted to interfere. They worried about making things worse. They worried about losing their jobs if drama followed. Most of all, they worried Jessica herself would deny everything. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He simply walked closer and gently offered Jessica a clean handkerchief. She tried apologizing through her tears, embarrassed that a customer had witnessed her breaking down. Daniel quietly introduced himself as the founder and CEO of one of the country's largest hospitality companies. Unknown to everyone inside the diner, he had spent months secretly visiting restaurants he considered purchasing. He believed the true character of a business wasn't revealed in financial reports but in how employees were treated when nobody important seemed to be watching. Looking directly at the manager, Daniel asked whether Jessica could take the rest of the day off with full pay. The manager immediately agreed. Jessica sat in the empty dining area, still shaken, while Daniel patiently listened. He never pressured her. He never interrupted. For nearly an hour, she slowly revealed pieces of the life she had hidden for years. She spoke about growing up believing love meant pain. She admitted she had no family nearby, no savings, and nowhere safe to go. Every time she considered leaving, fear convinced her she would fail. Daniel didn't promise miracles. Instead, he made phone calls. Within hours, a counselor arrived. A representative from a local women's support organization met Jessica privately. Temporary safe housing was arranged. Legal assistance became available. For the first time in years, Jessica realized she wasn't facing her nightmare alone. But Daniel's kindness didn't end there. During the following weeks, he quietly purchased the struggling diner. Many employees feared immediate layoffs, but the opposite happened. Wages increased. Staff received health benefits. Counseling services became available for anyone experiencing hardship. New training programs helped workers build careers instead of remaining trapped in survival mode. Jessica accepted every opportunity offered to her. She attended counseling sessions faithfully. She completed hospitality management courses funded by Daniel's company. Little by little, the frightened waitress who once cried over a kitchen sink began discovering confidence she never knew existed. Healing wasn't quick. Some mornings she still woke from terrifying nightmares. Some days loud voices made her flinch. Certain memories refused to disappear. But every small victory reminded her she was moving forward instead of backward. 1 year later, customers walking into the renovated diner noticed something different. Jessica still wore a red uniform. But her smile had changed. It was no longer something she forced for tips. It came naturally. She welcomed every guest with genuine warmth because she finally understood what hope felt like. New employees admired her calm leadership. Whenever someone struggled, Jessica remembered the day one stranger had simply asked who hurt her instead of pretending not to notice. She quietly became the kind of leader she had always needed herself. On the anniversary of purchasing the diner, Daniel returned without announcing his visit. He sat at the very same booth where everything had begun. Jessica served him coffee once again, but this time there were no bruises to hide and no tears waiting behind forced smiles. Instead, she handed him a framed photograph. It showed the entire diner staff standing together beneath a new sign that read, "Everyone deserves kindness." On the back, Jessica had written a simple message. "You didn't save my life because you were rich. You saved it because you noticed my pain when everyone else looked away." Daniel quietly smiled before placing the photograph beside his coffee. He understood something money could never buy. Sometimes the greatest investment isn't in buildings or businesses. Sometimes it's in believing another human being deserves a future. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Bright Heart. Your support helps these stories of compassion and hope reach people who may need them most. Special request, before this story ends, please leave a comment below and tell us, what would you have done if you had seen Jessica crying that day? As the evening sun filled the diner with warm golden light, Jessica watched families laugh together, co-workers encourage one another, and strangers leave with smiles. The kitchen where she had once cried in silence had become a place filled with laughter, respect, and hope. Her scars had not disappeared, but they no longer defined her future. All because one man chose to ask a question that everyone else was too afraid to ask. Sometimes changing a life doesn't begin with extraordinary wealth or impossible miracles. Sometimes it begins with simply noticing another person's pain, and having the courage to care.